where we have a solitary confinement cell right in the heart of the inner city where a passerby can get a chance to go by and listen and look and participate in the experience of seeing what solitary confinement looks like. So for whoever put that in chat, but they couldn't hear, I just took it up to 81 decibels for you. If you can't hear now, I think that might be your problem and not ours. So about a minute left, please stand by. Thank you for your patience. As always, we appreciate your continued support and commitment to this cause for the saving of minds, bodies, spirits, and lives as we attempt to redefine the punishment paradigm in this country and end the torture and death of solitary confinement. My name is Jerome Wright, and I will be making formal introductions in about 45 seconds. 45 seconds. We're counting down to our first national town hall on solitary confinement, and I am so looking forward to this discussion. Okay, 30 seconds. You know how it is when you was on that court and it's come down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you took that shot. We're about to take a shot at educating, encouraging, empowering, and motivating the community to act and to address the issue of solitary confinement, the torture of men, women, and children in the United States of America. And in particular, right here in the good old New York, the supposedly most progressive state in the union. Wink, wink. Okay, about 10 seconds. Batten down the hatches. Let's get this show ready to roll. I got an exciting panel. We got a little bit of everybody who's going to tell you a little bit about everything. Again, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good evening, ladies, gentlemen. I appreciate you tuning in. We're up to about 85 participants and viewers right now, looking for that triple-digit 100 for the night. My name is Jerome Wright, and I am a statewide organizer for the Campaign for Alternatives to Isolated Confinement, sponsors and proponents of the Halt Solitary Confinement Act, a bill presently in the state legislature that has been sitting dormant for now almost 8, 9 years, which has passed in the assembly before, and which now we are waiting for either house to bring to the floor for a vote. These are tumultuous times. I would be remiss in not talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. We would talk about the pandemonium in the street over racial equality and the death of George Floyd and others. And all of that is very important and impactful to our lives. But one of the things that we see and we find is this insidious attempt to divorce the communities from what's going on in our jails and prisons. And one of the most barbaric and draconian measures that continues to be exemplified in our jails and prisons is solitary confinement. And solitary confinement by any name simply means that you have an individual or more in a cell for anywhere from 19 to 24 hours a day for days, weeks, months, years, and in some cases even decades. This is torture. It's been ruled torture by the UN General Assembly. The Mandela rules put out that no more than 15 consecutive days of consecutive confinement should be allowed without it being considered torture. And we routinely torture men, women, and children in the state of New York and in this United States of America every day. And we will have testimony to that from other areas of the state, like in Nebraska and Connecticut, and from some of our allies that Unlock the Box. So without further ado, I'm glad you're joining us. We want to get right into it. Got a great panel of men and women, of impacted, justice involved individuals, survivors of solitary, and people who will tell you by their lived experience why this is torture, why it needs to stop, and why we have to stop it now. So without further ado, I want to turn you over to my comrade in arms, my co-statewide organizer with the HALT campaign, Mr. Victor Pate. Victor, let the people hear what you got to say. Yes.
Thank you, Comrade Jerome. And that is such a rousing introduction, and I'm just loving it, man. We're going to have to give you a raise for that. So my name is Victor Pate, statewide organizer for the HALT Solitary Confinement Campaign, as well as a solitary confinement survivor myself. And we really appreciate everyone getting on this tonight and sharing this moment and this time with us as we begin to lay out the platform for our HALT Solitary Confinement Bill, which is a bill that is proposing using alternatives to people being placed in solitary confinement with something that is more transformative, treatment-based, that will give people an opportunity to address whatever the issues might be that might have wound them in solitary confinement. But more importantly, it's a humane bill. Why you heard them say the humane alternatives for long-term isolated confinement is what the HALT Solitary Campaign is advocating for. And as my colleague mentioned, we've been doing this for just about 8 years now, and we haven't given up. We will not give up, and we're going to use this time and this moment to hopefully educate, inform, and hopefully empower others to get engaged, to get involved as we do the work, but more importantly, as we convince our legislators for them to do the right thing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to one of my colleagues and featured speakers for the night. Her name is Sammy Jewell. She is an advocate for pregnant women that are incarcerated, as well as a personal assistant with the, a little piece of light with Donna Hilton. And you're going to hear a few words from her. And we hope that what you hear will touch your hearts and touch your minds and open up your minds to how torturous solitary confinement is, but just how unnecessary solitary confinement is. So if you will, please, Sammy, take it away.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank the panel, and I'm very excited to be able to talk on behalf of my sisters that are incarcerated. I want to let you know that I went to trial in 2013, and when I lost at trial, I was pregnant with twins. So I endured solitary confinement. From the 5 years that I did a total of 7 months and 2 weeks in solitary, if I was to add all the time together. But notably, what I can share, which was the most devastating and the hardest thing, is that when I was 5 months pregnant with the twins, my water broke while I was in solitary. So because of that, I gave birth at 5 months. And so right here, that's a picture of me. So I had a boy and a girl, and the little girl's name was Jacinta Rain, and she lived 22 minutes. And she passed away after 22 minutes. And the little boy's name is Julius, and he will be 7 years old in November. So what I want to tell you about solitary confinement is that it is no joke. When you are inside of a cell, you have to figure out to create a schedule for yourself so that you can get through the day. And one of the most difficult things is just being alone with your thoughts 24 hours a day and not having any human contact. You are so starved for human contact that you are excited when you get food delivered to you, and you're excited, you know, when the officers do their rounds, just for some type of movement to happen. So for the people that have never been incarcerated, what I can explain to you about solitary is it's like being inside of a space the size of your bathroom, and then being alone in the bathroom for days, weeks, or months. And this is a real part of incarceration. It happens to almost everyone at some point. You can go into solitary for lots of different reasons. You can get a ticket, you can be put in protective custody, you can go to shoot. There's lots of different reasons why you would be in solitary, but I'm asking and begging and pleading for the HALT solitary bill to be passed. And I can tell you that even though I lost my daughter 7 years ago, she just had her 7th birthday in heaven, I can tell you that her death continues to impact me every single day. My son does not have a twin. I know that I would not have gone into labor if I did not have the stress of incarceration. Being alone with your thoughts, what I would do is I would walk forward 3 steps and then touch the wall with 1 foot, like 1, 2, 3, tap. And then I would go backwards, 1, 2, 3, tap. And then forward, 1, 2, 3, tap. And I would go sideways, 1, 2, 3, tap the wall. 1, 2, 3, tap the other wall. I would lay on the floor. I would do all kinds of things to pass my time. I would sing hymns. I would be grateful for any type of movement or sound that I heard. And what I can tell you is that there's absolutely no reason for it. There are other ways to rehabilitate, but being alone in this type of way, I can tell you that it kills, and it killed my daughter. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sammy.
Thank you so much, Sammy. That is a heart-wrenching story. Our heart goes out to you. We want to thank you because I know every time that you have to tell the story, you have to relive such a traumatic loss, and such a blessing that you have your son after 7 years. And we really reach out to you. See, people believe that this is not what goes on, that they would never put a woman in solitary confinement and then leave her there for months at a time or weeks at a time. And you are living proof, unfortunately, that this goes on. And I'm gonna make no mistake about this. In this time of racial degradation, racial inequality, you are not a Black woman, you are a white woman. And if they would do it to you, you know they will do it to people of color without any thoughts of or feeling like they have any remorse. And I am just so sorry for you. I want to thank Donna for bringing you aboard and helping you to exercise your truth, speak truth to power, and help us try to change this. I thank you, and I thank Victor for bringing you into the fold. It's such a pleasure to have you to work.
I want to say thank you for having me. And the other thing I want to say is, even though Jacinta's story is really sad, I do just want to say one thing about A Little Piece of Light, which is the women-led organization that I work for. I work for a woman named Donna Hilton, who was in Bedford Hills for 27 years, and she does now everything she can to help the people that are on the inside, women as well as formerly incarcerated. And one action that we took that I'm very proud of is the teen pandemic. We were in weekly meetings with Assemblyman Weprin, and we gave him the conditions of all 3 New York State prisons, and we pushed for the release of pregnant women, and we got 8 out of 11 pregnant women released from prison. So I want to say that I am grateful that I've been able to take Jacinta's story, and I've been able to work with other people part of this movement, and I've been able to see change in my lifetime. So in that way, it's been a positive thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to the Women's Speakers Bureau of the HALT Solitary Confinement Campaign.
Thank you.
Yes, that was wonderful. I am so proud and thankful for Donna and her commitment to continue to go back and fight the good fight on behalf of all of the beautiful sisters, mothers, aunts, cousins, grandmoms, the aunties that language behind bars who never get enough credit for the fight that they endure along with the men like myself when I was in there. Bless you, Sammy, and bless you, Donna. Keep up the good work. Victor, I see you got a youngin in the house. I want you to introduce our next speaker there.
Yeah, I'm totally excited about that, and thank you once again. One of the other things that, we really also need to amplify and also speak more about is the effects of solitary confinement on our youth and juveniles. And we are blessed and fortunate to have a young man on here with us tonight who not only served time in the juvenile detention center, but he also had experienced solitary confinement. And I'm glad to know him, and his mother and I actually have worked together previously before. She's executive director of Justice for Families organization. So I'd like to bring to the mic my colleague, my friend, my new trainee, so to speak, on the young person's component of speaking to the whole solitary confinement campaign, Ja Power. You got the mic, brother.
How you doing today, guys?
Okay, man.
Yeah, my name is Ja Power, and I'm a returning citizen. I came home from prison in 2016, and I haven't been back to jail since. So I'm proud of that, and I'm a good friend of Victor. So I just wanted to say a couple of things. I wrote down a couple bulletins so I could just keep on track because I'm kind of tired. I just woke up, so I'm just going to stay on track. So one of the bad things about solitary confinement is my first time in solitary confinement, I was in juvenile and I was only 14 years old. So it's like juvenile detention center and the Department of Corrections is two different things. Juvenile detention center is basically all solitary confinement. You don't have no freedom to do anything. They keep you in your cell about 23 hours a day. You get an hour recreation in juvenile. So some of the things they used to do to us in juvenile is when they lock you in your cell in solitary, there's no bathroom inside your cell. So you have to knock on your door or scream for an officer so they could come and let you go to the bathroom. So sometimes you'll lose your voice. Sometimes they won't come and open the door for you on time. You have to pee in your cell on the floor. So it'd be like bad hygiene, all type of crazy stuff. And then when I was in solitary confinement in the Department of Corrections with the older guys, my first time in solitary in Department of Corrections, I was only 17. And they had me with a roommate that was 45 years old. So it was like I was 17 and my roommate was 45. I only had 3 years in jail and he had 26 to life. So it's like they wasn't matching up the ages and the crimes. They would just put me with somebody that was in my weight class. I was kind of big for my age, so they will have me with the grown guys and they won't think nothing of it that I'm only 17. And one of the other things I wrote down is that you feel all alone. Like Sammy said, like you just start doing things you won't usually do. You just start talking to yourself, answering yourself. The first time I talked to myself was in solitary. I used to ask myself questions, just look in the ceiling, talk to myself, answer myself. You get a lack of hygiene. You can't get in the shower. They only give you about 2 showers a week. You can't just get in the shower whenever you want. As to population, you could just get in the shower whenever you want 3 times a day. You could take 5 showers a day if you want population. In solitary, you can't really keep yourself clean like that. Nutrition, you can't feed yourself. They only feed you 3 times a day. So you can't, as a population, you could eat 5 times a day. You could eat your soups, you could eat your snacks, you could do some rice, you could cook whatever times a day as you want. In solitary, you only eat when the menu 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So it's like they treat you like a dog. Because as soon as you don't, if say you eat at 6 in the morning for a whole 3 months, you're gonna be used to eating at 6 in the morning. So once 7 o'clock come and you don't eat, you're gonna start getting hungry and your body and your mind is gonna start playing tricks on you, wondering where's my food that I'm supposed to be eating at this time, when really is no time you're supposed to be eating. You can eat whenever you're supposed to. And another thing about solitary is the visitation. Like my family couldn't come see me whenever they want. They had to come at certain times and they only could come 1 day out the week. And it's probably like a visit from 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night when my family is tired. I can't speak to my family when I want to in solitary. I can't call 3 times a day. I had to write a letter and I have to wait a week till the letter come back. So it's like, it's a lot of things solitary could do. Like it just keeps you in a close area. So as soon as you get put in a big area, it's like your mind start playing tricks on you. You start looking at people weird. You're looking at everything. You're looking at everything at a different perspective once you release out of solitary. So it's like Solitary is not a place you want to be. In education, if I was in population, I'd be going to school every day, going to school, dealing with the teachers, trying to get my GED, get some credits for school. And solitary is no school. They give you a packet, and you just study the packet, give it back to the teachers, and they give you grades whenever they get it back. So it's like you can't really pursue your education in solitary. So that's another reason why I think they should pass the whole solitary bill. And it's just it's a lot of bunch of stuff that I didn't write down, but it's just stopped my teenage years. Like I was in solitary for my birthdays. I was in solitary for all holidays. So now it's like I don't care for a holiday or a birthday. Like it's just a regular day to me because I really was locked up since I was 14 years old until I was 20 years old. So all of those teenage years, birthdays, I really don't think none of them. I really don't got no good memories or anything because due to solitary. If I was in population, I probably could have made a little cake or something, celebrated, but I was in solitary for most of my birthdays and things like that. But yeah, though, that's mostly everything I got to say right now. So I definitely think they should pass hold the solitary bill. The solitary.
Well, thank you, John Powell, and thank you for your courage to speak out, to tell your story. And definitely, this is just one of the many reasons of all reasons why there should be no solitary confinement. Definitely, juveniles should not be exposed to solitary confinement because you always have the collateral damage, not only for juveniles, but for everyone. And there is collateral damage.
Thank you, Victor. You done muted yourself again, but that's right on time, right on schedule. Thank you, John Power. It is such a rewarding experience to watch a young man come out of such trauma and devastation and be able to speak truth to power and to stand up for the rights of those who left behind. You are an inspiration to a lot of us, even us older guys, because I wish I had the wherewithal when I was your age to get it right and speak about it. So thank you, my brother. It is a pleasure to know you. It's glad to have you on the team. And I know you will make a difference for a lot of young people who are suffering like you suffered and will help us to make sure that this bill gets passed. So bless you, brother. I appreciate that. You brought us over 100 too. We got to the 100 mark while you were speaking.
Yay!
Yeah. So we got 100 people on board, and it's good to know that these are real stories. This is not something out of a book. Let me say this: incarcerated lives matter. And that's the thing, that's the problem. Right now, the message that we're sending, that's being sent to us, is that our incarcerated family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, and comrades, they don't matter as much as Joe Q citizen that's walking on these streets. But because we represent, especially Black and brown people, almost 50% of the population in any prison or jail you go to, they can't divorce the two. We are intertwined at the heart. And the greatest bastion of racial inequality, state-sponsored violence, is solitary confinement. And that's why we got to change it up. But I don't want to be the one talking. I want you to hear the story from some other people. We got some out-of-state people. We got some brother from Nebraska. We got a brother from Connecticut. But before we go to them, we do have an assembly member, one of our staunchest members, one of our co-sponsors, one of the people who is for the people, and I want to give him a minute to say a word or two. Assembly member Epstein, are you on the line? Hey, there you go.
Yeah, I'm right here. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, we're still also in the middle of session, so we're debating a couple of bills, and unfortunately, we're not debating HALT today. And this is a struggle that you guys have been fighting, and I've been proud to join you over the last few years to try to get us over the threshold, to tell everyone how bad solitary confinement is, and these stories really help the message. And solitary confinement is torture, and that we need to continue this fight. Unfortunately, as today ends, it doesn't look like we're going to get HALT on the calendar, but we are not going to end today. This is, the arc of justice is long. We're going to be in this fight for a while. You guys are going to keep fighting. We're going to try to get it done this year. If we don't, we have a whole new crop of assembly members coming in January. We're going to have a progressive group of people who are going to stand with us day in and day out till we get HALT done. We need to know, these stories are real. People who are on here know about it. It's personal. The people who we have to get to are the people who didn't join the Zoom. People don't understand the atrocities that happen with people in solitary confinement. They don't understand the mental anguish that people go through. They don't understand the crisis that we put people in. And they don't understand that we're making it worse long term. For someone who puts in solitary confinement, it just makes their whole lives worse. And the risk of recidivism, the risk of being more involved in the criminal justice system just continues to grow. And it's the exception. The people who, like the people on the Zoom who are so strong that they're able to tell their story and speak truth are critical to winning this battle. So I know we haven't won today, but I know we're not going to give up. I'm going to continue to fight with you. I stand with you today and tomorrow until we get this done. Thank you all.
Thank you, Assembly Member. You are such a great supporter of ours.
Thank you.
The people of your district should be proud and happy to have you fighting for them as you fight for all New Yorkers. We really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Keep our name in their face, as I know you will. And we haven't given up. We will never give up. We will never surrender. We will never retreat until we end solitary confinement as it's being done right now in New York State. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us at Monday's Action.
Okay, yeah. We didn't talk about Monday's action. I'm just thinking about 1, 2, 3 Tap and Sammy's story and how John Powell, for the first time in his life, talked to himself while he was in a solitary confinement cell, and that reverberates for his life. How Victor and myself have been traumatized in ways still we have yet to unravel because of solitary confinement. And that is why we got to end it now. But I don't want you to think that solitary confinement is a uniquely New York State issue. We're going to go right now to Nebraska, the good state of Nebraska, and my friend and Unlock the Box colleague and activist and fighter for ending solitary confinement, Jason Whitmer. Jason, could you talk to the people? Tell us how it's going out there.
Yeah, Jason Whitmer, also go by J Renewed, and that name came because of brothers like yourself and sisters that have reached out to me throughout my time. I got about 20 years in prison, a combined about 8 years in the hole. And even as I was a nightmare inside, because as we know, and maybe some of us don't, that the more time you spend in prison, period, the worse your mentality get with all the negativity coming at you. And then the correctional officers, who are the people who are supposed to represent a better morale, are just on you like slave masters, as opposed to people who are encouraging you to do better and get out in society in a safe way for everybody else. So the brothers invested in me, and it took a long time for me to get back around to where I could be a human being again. And so with that being said, I would like to talk about the solitary confinement here in Nebraska, because it's little old Nebraska, and I can only imagine what New York is thinking. It's like, all 5 people in their swimming pool in their prison. However, I don't think there is a state that their prison is nice or conducive to education and reform in a way that we go back in society without more problems, that we're constantly resisting to be a better person who we are now. And here, the hole was used for everything and anything. We have a prison that can hold 3,600 people, all of our prisons in Nebraska. We are at 5,500 now. So we're like 180% capacity. We had a state of emergency for prison overcrowding. They decided we don't have to honor that. We've been fighting restrictive housing. 6 years ago, Nico Jenkins, remember the name because it's easy to look up. Nico Jenkins, which I'm surprised because the case is so extreme that it hasn't been some Hollywood movie. I was in with him, and he would always talk about his mental health was getting worse, and he would cut himself and do this. But he would always say, if you release me, I'm going to kill people. And when they released him in 3 weeks, he killed 4 or 5 people. He spent 70% of his time in the hole. Nobody in our state seems to think that had no factor in growing this man out of being a man, growing this boy into a nightmare with this mental health higher than a lot of us into what just happened, which is absolutely what happened, because we see that on the yard, guys come out acting different. Guys come out like myself. I would come out, I was a little dude and I'll come out more aggressive, because the whole time I spent in the hole, it was all about revenge, and it seemed to always be about another black man, you know, somebody, some gang related thing. And then when I go in the hole, pacing, thinking, talking, just dwelling on things, and almost always into the negative until the brothers were reaching me and giving me a cause to believe in, besides just the cause of my little gang membership. So unlock the box. I met ACLU. I got out in 2016, and I met the ACLU of Nebraska. I got contact with them and ended up interning with them. And at this time, I was trying to learn how to videography. And they decided, hey, we're going to hire you to do some solitary confinement videos. I want you to speak to some of these people you know in the community who have been in the hole. And you have lived experience, so we feel that would be a little bit uniquely different. And in doing so, we developed these videos, and we developed a campaign where we had videos and questions, and people would have community events or have home events or all these different things with these videos, and they would see stories. And then they would push bills. And last year we got juvenile confinement and pregnant prisoners, vulnerable adults. We have bills passed that against that. So that was one positive. And I would like to end it. I could tell a whole bunch of terror stories about my time. I think we all can, about our trauma. But I would like to end this to say, all the people watching, the people sitting on this panel, it's the investment in the community, the investment in your community inside. Them brothers weren't able to reach out to me if they didn't have people outside sending them books when they requested it, sending them information to try to educate their mind so they can feed it to brothers like me inside. And I want to say, when I see New York and I see how supportive these communities come together, that's encouraging. That's encouraging, because sometimes when we're trying to, those of us who get out and we're trying to advocate out here, we feel like we're alone because they wear us out and get us out the way. But we're making moves, and I am honored to be here. And more than that, I am honored to see the moves and the resistance and the strength in your organizations and your people in making moves. And I hope this spreads across the country. Halt solitary confinement.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much. From the heartland out there, heartland, I mean, I think most people in New York think in Nebraska, they think of corn huskers or tumbleweeds, and they don't think about the amount of people you have in prison and the amount of people that are in solitary, and the same trauma, that torture that's visited on somebody sitting in the cell in Attica is visited on somebody sitting in the cell in Nebraska. There's no difference. And I don't care if you call it restrictive housing, the whole SHU, keep lock, administrators say IPC, you name it, the names change, but the game is the same: torture and death, especially to people of color. I don't want to bemoan this. You know what's going on, and we want you stay looking at the chat, because we got some actions that you can involve yourself in reaching out to local legislators and statewide representatives in the effort to make sure that, like Assemblymember Epstein said, that this doesn't end now, that halt is passed in this 2020 session. So without further ado, I see we got our Buffalo people lining up, getting online. That's great. We're going to swing out there. But before we go to Buffalo, we're going to go to Connecticut. And my brother, my comrade, my homie from New York City, now in Connecticut, Leighton Johnson. Leighton, where you at? The activist. There you go. Activist extraordinaire, looking like a young radical right there, bearded up. Brother, tell the people what's going on in Connecticut.
Peace, bro. I'm glad you said it, because, you know, of course I gotta always represent New York to be asked to be exact. But I am you know, currently working out of Connecticut. I'm with an organization. I'm the education outreach coordinator for Stop Solitary CT, and but just before I go into that, the young brother, Ja, I believe his name was Ja Power.
Drop power.
Right. He brought me back because I usually say that I did close to 5 years in solitary confinement, and that was on my bid when I was doing my 10-year bid in Connecticut. However, when I think about it and I go back to Spofford days, Spofford, if anybody don't know, is the juvenile detention center in New York. It, he's right, or even the barge. The barge is a huge boat that they used to put juveniles on at one time. I think that was before it was the Bronx House of Detention. And he's absolutely right that you stay inside of yourself for close to 22, 23 hours a day. And I never even thought about the fact that I experienced solitary confinement since the age of 14 years old. So that just brought me back to those times, man. And actually, when he was talking about banging on the door because you can't use the toilet, and they just ignoring you, and then you gotta just piss on the floor or do whatever you gotta do, and it's crazy. Like people sharing soaps. When you come in, this was on a barge that I remember. When you come in, they had a bucket of soaps, like not even a full soap. It's like about this big, a broken in half soap, and you use the soap and you throw it in the bucket. But they use that same bucket for everybody. So all the new intakes come in, and you reach in the bucket that somebody already used, and you use that same soap, and that's abnormal. But it's normal to people who just go through it and don't realize that it's inhumane. However, I spent close in Connecticut. I was doing a 10.5-year bid. I did close to 5 years in solitary confinement. It's a prison called Northern CI, which was deemed torture, specifically Connecticut, and that specific prison was deemed torture by the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture. My fight has been, like I said, to educate the public on the harms of solitary confinement. We have bills. We work with Yale, ACLU, countless organizations. I can't even think about it that we work with. Smart Justice out of the ACLU. We actually drafted a bill called the Protect Act. That's to protect individuals, like somewhat what Jason said, like pregnant people, youth, which I think they already had that bill passed. But we want to make sure that that's actually adhered to, because the bill did pass a couple of years ago for them to not put youth inside solitary confinement, but they're still doing it. So that's a whole nother fight where you need independent oversight over what the Department of Corrections actually does. We have that bill that was drafted, and due to COVID, we was trying to get it on the floor so that it could be passed, but COVID threw a monkey wrench into that. So then our new fight had become to try to get people released, people who was inside on violations of parole, minor infractions, or somebody who did majority of their time is a model inmate or prisoner. I don't like to use the word inmate, but prisoner, and they can be released without any threat to the public. They have a stable home they can go to, and we was trying to get the Governor Lamont to try to release people. However, we got a lot of backlash from him, as well as the Department of Corrections and the commissioner, who just retired because it was too much for him. We was putting too much pressure on him. They wasn't releasing people, and people died. About 8 people died inside because they was not allowing people to be released. So they got COVID and they passed away. Now it's a special session now, and our new thing, because everybody's jumping on this bandwagon about police accountability, our new issue is to try to get correctional accountability added as well to the police accountability bill. Excuse me, because there's absolutely no way that you could talk about law enforcement accountability, qualified immunity, civilian review boards for police, and not talk about the abuses that go inside those behind those walls, where there's nobody can pull out a phone and start filming and say World Star and put it on Facebook or put it on wherever so that the people could know what's going on. Behind those bars, if they beat your ass or if they break your hand like they did to me, 2008, if they mace you, if they, you know, just starve you, whatever they do, you know, they get away with it. So with that being said, it's something I had wrote in regards to the police accountability bill and trying to get the correctional accountability added on. But I think this is pertinent to this right here. So I said, I know what it's like to be in full body restraints, subdued, not resisting whatsoever, having a mob of COs jump on your back and put their knees in the crook of your neck. I know what it's like to be sprayed with military grade mace, absolutely no warning, telling them that you can't breathe, and then being kicked, punched, and having obscenities yelled at you. I know what it's like to have a vicious dog released on you with the sole intent and purpose to inflict brutal harm on you. I know what it's like to be denied food and recreation because the officer's in a bad mood or is racist. I know what it's like to be denied physical contact with another human being for years, simply because you had a few minor infractions in the past, like a few disobeying direct order tickets. I know what it's like to be denied heat in the winter, air in the summer, or quality health care. I can go on and on about the ways in which the Department of Corruption dishes out acts of brutality and have been given the authority to do so without any oversight or sustaining precedent-setting repercussions that will prevent any abuses in the future because of things like qualified immunity and everything else aforementioned. Every act of police, law enforcement, correctional brutality doesn't have to be physical. Just the mere fact that any of these things that I mentioned can be done with impunity is oppression, institutional corruption, and brutal in itself. Not to mention racist, since the majority of these abuses are inflicted on Black and brown people. Now, that just sums it up, and I mean, not sums it up because there's so many abuses and so many inhumane practices that take place inside solitary confinement. Just like Jerome said, it's so much that you don't even realize all the traumas that you have experienced. But I can attest to some of those stories about like walking back and forth in your cell, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, touching the wall, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just like almost losing your mind because you're just in four walls, a toilet, and a bed. Not to mention the practice of this thing called in-cell restraints, which they put you in a cell. There's no toilet. It's only a toilet and a bed, and that's it. And they chain you up, full body restraints, and they leave you in there for 3 days. Now, you imagine being chained up for 3 days in a cell. If you can't imagine that, then you should support the halt solitary bill, because if you couldn't imagine yourself or your family members or even an animal being chained up, because when the animal's chained up, it's outrage amongst people. Can't imagine that? Vote for the halt solitary bill. And thank you everyone for coming on. And I support, well, New York is a huge inspiration because it's my home state, but the camaraderie of the organization and how y'all been pushing for close to 9 years, and y'all just relentless. The resilience is real inspiration to me. Salute to you, Jerome, who I met in DC last year, just like Jason, through the Unlock the Box convene. And just salute to everybody who came out. Peace.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I was watching the chat, and there were quite a few people hollering at you and said, great idea with correctional accountability. I think that is something that we all should be thinking about. It's something I was remiss in thinking about. And even with the repeal of 50A, that still does not give accountability. That gives us access to records, but that does not make them accountable. And that's great. Thank you for talking, stepping up, for representing the Boogie Down as always. I appreciate you. I just want you guys to know that, listen, I've been watching the chat and people talking about what they're learning and they appreciate this, and we appreciate you. I know that the brother just gave me a new understanding of don't drop the soap. As in Connecticut, anybody could have used it before you. You never know what it's supposed to keep you clean, but I don't want to be that clean. I swear I don't. And you know, adding some levity to this, because this is really a traumatic. This is really about life and death. And sometimes, if you don't make light of it to some degree, it will steal your heart and mind, because it is such a sad testament. It is man's greatest inhumanity to man: solitary confinement. Nobody was made to be separated, held apart. Listen, this collective country lost its minds being in the comforts of its own homes during this COVID pandemic. They were there for 90 days with TV, Netflix, family. You could go out, just wear a mask, all of this, and we lost our collective minds. Can you only imagine being co-signed to a 6x9 cell for 90 days like you were to your own house, and you couldn't survive that? People risking COVID infection to get out of the house, and people are dying in prison because of COVID infections in solitary confinement. We got to get this right. We got the people, like the uprising in the street now with the death, the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Rayshard Brooks and all of them. We got names like Layleen Polanco, Ben Van Zandt, Khalif Browder. We got names too. Those people died in solitary confinement because of solitary confinement, and nobody is ever the same after coming out of there. It has no socially redeeming value. Let me say that again. Solitary confinement has no socially redeeming value. It is torture. And if you look in the chat right now, you'll get some Google Docs that you can share, some sample tweets. We need to get the word out to everybody else, more than you 100 people on here. If all 100 people on here find 10 more people that they could share this information with to get involved with this, we'd have 1 million people in no time really standing up for this. We need to let you know that they have been killing us out here, but they've been killing us in there. Incarcerated lives matters. Prisoners are people too, and we have to protect our people who are in there. And at the rate that so many people are being found not guilty because of DNA and recanted testimony and racist policies by the police and the district attorneys, it's no wonder that we're having people who are innocent dying in prison and in solitary, who are harming themselves or who are being irreparably damaged. So we did a lot of talking about the cell. So tonight we want to give you a special treat. If you can call seeing a solitary confinement cell a treat. We want to send you out to the streets of Buffalo, on the corner of Kensington and Bailey, right in the heart of the east side of Buffalo, where we have our cell erected on the street. And I had my people up here, Patrick, I know I told them 7:30, but we moving so good, I wanted to try to get as much time. There we go, Patrick, now listen, this man needs no introduction to us in Buffalo because he is a former 20+ year police officer. He is the annual chairperson of the Juneteenth Festival, and he is a great man in this community. And his name is Patrick Craig, and it was Patrick's vision that we have a solitary cell built to show people just what trauma it causes. And right now out here in Buffalo, Patrick is with the cell. Patrick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, well, you're live and on location with the cell. Please talk to the people. Let them see it. Tell them what you got to say.
Yeah, peace and love, folks. I'm with my road dog right here.
Daryl Scott.
Daryl Scott.
I'm SF. You know what that means, right? A solitary survivor. I survived this. All right?
Yeah.
We need to pass this bill now. We need it passed. Our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, our children is dying up in these places like this.
Yeah,
people are actually dying right here, right now.
Yeah, we're up in the cell right now, and we are on Bailey and Kensington in Buffalo, New York. and we are inside this 6x9 home. This is the Holiday Inn, well, not really no Holiday Inn. This is the Holiday of Torture.
Call it the Chamber of Living Death. The Chamber of Living Death.
That's what it is, the Chamber of Living Death. That's what we need to do. We need them to pass this bill now. See that bill right there? Tell them to pass it right now. Pass the bill now. Pass it now. We're out here going around the cell right now. I don't know how to flip this frontwards.
Well, we hear you and we see what you see.
Yeah, and we hear you well.
Yeah, we're in front of the Imperial Market right out here. And we're trying to get
okay, go ahead.
Trying to get as many people as possible involved in this so you can understand the necessity of passing this bill as soon as possible. People are coming in. We're trying to get people on our petition. We're handing out our cards so that all of our brothers and our sisters can understand that this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to pass this. We're passing this bill right here. We got many names, people inquiring about what we're doing out here, and this is it. We have the replica cell. This cell we had a replica cell out for a number of years right now. This is going on the 8th or 9th year with the replica cell. And we're right now set up inside of Buffalo with this cell. We just got back from Albany for the action. That was in Albany on Monday and Tuesday. We had a day's rest, and now we're here on Thursday, setting up all over again. This is our action. And we're trying to bring people aware of what the action is all about. So get out, talk to your family members, send out the flyers, talk it up, get the word out so that everybody can be aware of the need, the necessity of passing this HALT bill. Go online, Google HALT, Western New York HALT, so that we can get everyone involved in this bill as possible, as much as possible.
So Patrick, you hear me? You hear me, yeah. Patrick? So I'm wanting to know, since this was one of your brainchilds, the construction of the cell, and as a police officer, what do you hope to accomplish? What was your goal in creating this cell?
Well, honestly, I would hope to bring on more police officers that was feeling the same way that I was when I saw the play Mariposa, and especially the rookie cops and the ones that have been on less than 10 years on the job. For them to understand the hardships, the torture that goes on in solitary or in prison. Now, understandable, I retired as a professional police officer, as being a police officer for 24 years, and I became a crime prevention specialist. Well, I went into the communities and talked about crime prevention and how neighbors and people can act as the eyes and ears for the police. That was my profession, and I loved my job. Even if I went back to work tomorrow, which I don't plan to, but if I went back to work tomorrow, I would land on my feet doing what I have to do, locking people up. But then the thing that we have to do as police officers, understanding that those mediocre crimes, we have the discretion as a police officer to say, okay, we're gonna give you a break today. We're gonna give you a pass today. And I've done it hundreds of times. I'm getting a low battery call. Hold it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting a low battery signal. But police officers have a strong discretionary call. When they stop a person on the street, we can dispose of that marijuana, crunch it up, throw it down the sewer. We can let somebody slide if they have a complaint, a mere complaint about them. Just like a judge has a high discretionary call. We can use our discretion whether or not to lock somebody up, or if somebody is mentally ill on the street, we can take them to get their mental assistance, take them over to ECMC, Erie County Medical Center Hospital, so they can be CPAP, get mental evaluation, rather than putting the person in jail, which may be the wrong thing to do. So police officers need to understand where they fit in with somebody's life going forward.
Thank you, Patrick. I'd just like you to give us one more good look at that cell so that the people who are all over the state and all over the country who are watching this can get a really good look at that cell.
Yes, yes, I'm gonna take a walk around it so you can understand what it's all about. Again, right here. This is our replica cell. We got our placards out here. Going inside the cell.
I see you, Whitney. Thank you. Look at that. That's a toilet a toilet sink contraption. Yeah, all in one. Yeah. Yeah. Stainless steel. Cold to sit on that this winter. I can tell you that much.
And that's like it's like a nightmare just to think that we are out here having this opportunity to view it from this perspective that we're able to view it from now, but just think that we was actually held in that, and to think that people are continuous to be held for decades on end. It is an atrocity on human life.
Yes. It is an atrocity. It is torture. And if we were waterboarding our citizens or pulling their fingernails out, people would be up in arms. But because we tortured them with slow motion suicide by putting them in this box for weeks, months, years, and decades, they seem to get away with it. Time is now to stop it. Getting a lot of feedback from you over there in Buffalo. Thanks for you guys standing out there. Hey, Daryl, you want to say something? Do you want to say something, brother?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that I am a survivor of solitary confinement. Unfortunately, I spent a couple of years in this torture. But what needs to be done now, my story is old. We got to concentrate on our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers and nieces and nephews and sons and daughters that's being affected by this torture now. Because this is what it's about, what's going on now. In light of this virus or whatever they want to call it, this pandemic, this hell on earth, they got to be at the bottom pit because they're locked in the cell 23 hours a day. 23 hours a day. No meaningful human contact. It will drive you completely bonkers, to say the least. If you ain't had mental issues before you go in the box, you're guaranteed to have them when you come out. Then if you had them when you went in there, they're gonna probably be 5 to 10 times worse. So we just need this bill to get passed. Put it on the agenda. Let's vote on it. Let them vote on it. Don't just leave it and push it to the back burner the way that Cuomo been doing. We don't want anything else but that bill passed. Nothing left, no more compromising, no more talking to the unions, no more making these felonious changes that does nothing but make the situation worse. So we just got to keep on pushing, brothers and sisters. And I thank y'all.
No, we thank you, Daryl. We thank you, Patrick, for erecting that cell out there on the corner and holding it down and standing out there and giving people an opportunity to view this chamber of living death so that we can deter some of our young people from ever ending up there, even if before we get this bill passed. And we're looking now to get it passed immediately, if not sooner. It wasn't on the agenda today. They're not finished this week. We are hoping that as a consequence of your participation today, seeing and hearing the stories, understanding the gravity of the situation, that you will go into the chat and look at some of the actions that we have slated that you can involve yourself in with tweeting and emailing and calling Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the Senate leader, and Carl Heasey, the Assembly leader, and even the governor who speaks so eloquently about how every life is precious and so important, but how he thinks incarcerated lives don't matter because they haven't talked about doing anything to save incarcerated lives from solitary, from COVID, from the bad policies of the past, and from years of Republican oppression. The time is now.
How you doing,
The
brother?
time is now. The time
Get
is
them out
now.
and
Thank you.
and vote them out. Get them out
Thank
and
you.
vote them out.
I know it's what time we got. It's 7:36. We got about 20 more minutes for this live feed. I will say if anybody has any questions, we were going to wait till 8 o'clock to accept them, but we got our tech guy, Scott Pouchwick, watching and monitoring the chat for any questions. If you have any questions that you want to ask of any of the panelists or myself or anybody out there on the streets of Buffalo who going by the cell, please feel free to log them in now, and we will try as best we can to answer them or to get you the information you need. Again, we're right in the throes towards the end of the 2020 legislative session. We need this to pass now. We need them not to wait till 2021 when we get this new group of progressives in that I can't wait to meet and see. But we got people dying and suffering right now. The walls of those cells are sweating as we speak. And people are losing their minds. They're losing hope. Their spirit is running low. We can't continue to subject our human beings, because prisoners are people too, our human beings, our brothers and sisters, to the type of torture, degradation, pain, and suffering that solitary confinement visits on them every waking moment of every single day they're in there, for weeks, for months, for years, for decades. We had an action earlier today in front of Senator Kennedy's office demanding that he sign on as a co-sponsor and go to the leadership and ask for the bill to be on the agenda and on the floor for a vote. You heard about the action we had earlier this week in Albany, where for 24 hours, our allies and us stayed all day in Albany at West Park, right across the street from the legislature, with the replica cell, with body bags, with tombstones of the dead comrades we lost during this fight, during COVID and this solitary confinement. We have been pushing since this whole pandemic started to remind people that our people in prison are not expendable. They're not expendable, and we want them taken care of. We want them saved. We want them free. We want to end solitary as it is right now. And we need your support to do it. The people are rising up right now in the streets as we speak. And we need to rise up on one accord with them and say, not our families, not anymore. No more torture. Let's end solitary now. Do we have any questions? Yeah, they said they've got people in Albany still pushing out bills. We might get a chance before it's over to so much coming over this chat. I don't think I'll be able to keep up. Hopefully Scott is monitoring this, and if anything significant comes up that we need to address or want to answer, he will cue me in, or him or Victor. I just want to thank all of our guests, our wonderful guests, Sammy Jewel with her heart-wrenching story and the story of her twins, and the solitary, and the young firebrand and soon to be activist leader of the youth, Job Power, and his talk about youth in detentions and reminding us that youth detention is solitary all the way around the board, something that we often forget as we grow older. It's not like time out, it's like lights out, and that's what it seems to be. And then our brother from Nebraska, Jason Whitmer, Jay Rue, the brother who told us about how things in Nebraska are unlike us in New York could imagine, but no different than what's going on in New York. And then my comrade, my brother, my boogie down homie, Leighton up there in Connecticut, told us about the fights and some of the bills that they're pushing to get passed and some of the victories. I don't want to be remiss. This has not been a total washout. We have gotten some minor victories, but the time for minor victories now, because we got major problems. So we need major victories, and major victory is getting a hall pass and let that domino fall all the way across the country, to Nebraska, to Connecticut, to Nevada, to St. Louis, to Pittsburgh, to the whole country. The time now is to stop this torture. Daryl and Patrick out in the city, set up live on location, right in the heart of the east side of Buffalo, where 90% of the population of color come from. Let me tell you some numbers so that you know. If you think that this is not a racist institution, this whole paradigm of punishment known as solitary, let me tell you this. Black and brown people make up about 14% of the population in the state of New York. Yet they make up almost 50% of those who are currently confined in prison, and more than 60% of those who are in solitary confinement on any given day in any facility anywhere in the state of New York. If that's not racial discrimination, if that's not bias, if that's not racism at its foundation, then I don't know what is. I don't know what is. We're not inherently bad people. We're not inherently criminal, and we don't belong in solitary in the numbers that we are. What's that all about? If you can't tell me that that's not the system replicating what it wants to replicate, and that's recidivism, that's people coming out with lost minds, lost spirits, so that they're no longer good, then you got something else coming. Like Jason talked about the young man, we forget there's a thing called cause and effect. When you see something happening, look for the cause. And right now, the cause for a lot of the problems of our community is the continued use of solitary confinement on the men, women, and children in our community.
Can I jump in right quick, Jerome, just before we sign off? So this is Victor Pate, the other statewide organizer with the whole solitary confinement campaign, and I like to call it for what it is. Prisons and jails is an extension of slavery. Allegedly, Emancipation Proclamation was supposed to free people, but they did not, and it was a trick. And if you look at the makeup of prisons and jails, is on the same principles as was slavery, and that's what we are dealing with slavery. So we got to call it for what it is, and we have to approach it for what it is. This is a human rights issue. It is a humane issue. It is an all of us issue. And we cannot allow there to be separation between the community that is out here and the community that is behind those walls. Because guess what? They are still a part of our community, although separated by those walls. They are still part of our communities, and we have to not allow them to continue to act like they are not a part of our community and they don't exist. And I want to speak to one thing with regard to that. A couple of months ago, the legislature held a hearing, and the purpose of that hearing was to talk about the effects that was happening in our communities. Well, guess what? What about the effects of COVID-19 to our brothers and our sisters behind those prison walls who don't have the luxury of social distancing, that were not being given masks, that were not being given hand sanitizer, although they were used as prison labor to manufacture masks and hand sanitizers while not having access to it themselves? It shouldn't be that they are treated the way they are, because guess what? These very same people that are in our prisons and jail will one day be the very same people in our community. How do we want these people to return? Do we want these people to return able to contribute and function within society? Or do we want them to return broken and incapable of functioning in our society? Well, we got an opportunity to change that. And we have an opportunity to change the treatment of our brothers and sisters in jail by getting this HALT bill passed, and get it passed now. Time is enough, has wasted. They have given every excuse. We don't need no more excuses. All we need is for them to pass the HALT bill, but we definitely need you, the community, you, the listeners, and those of you who are on this Zoom, or those of you that hear this here. This is something that we desperately need your help to do, and we implore and we ask you to join with us in this campaign and in the work that we're doing to get this HALT solitary confinement bill passed. Thank you, Brother Jerome, for allowing me that moment.
No problem, my brother. No problem. Anytime. The floor is always open for you. I do see we have a question in here about, do the current bill on HALT bill have any provisions in it that would impact our brothers and sisters that are in ICE detention? Well, yes, the provision would apply to nobody being held for more than 15 consecutive days in any long-term isolating confinement situation. Of course, there would need to be monitoring and proper implementation, but it does extend beyond just jails and prisons. It would be used to be enacted in any situation that can be construed, even remotely, as solitary confinement. So I hope to answer your question. Any other questions? Thank you, Victor, for weighing in and your statements. I think all too often, sometimes we talk about this and we talk about it in the abstract and not in the practical, in that this is slavery, this is the new Jim Crow, this is what mass incarceration is about. And one of the worst parts of this whole mass incarceration paradigm is this whole spectrum of solitary confinement. We have whole states and governors and county sheriffs saying they don't have solitary because they want to construe it in the narrowest, most banal terms. But solitary is putting a man, a woman, or a child in a cell for weeks, months, days at a time without the benefit of all the amenities that everybody else in the prisons get, like food, like programming, like counseling, like human contact, like education, like everything that you need to go in and come out better, not bitter, which is not what they do now. Everything you need to go in and learn why you in there and what better ways not to get back in there than to go in there and come out and become a recidivist, or to drum up some type of crime spree that makes it look bad for thousands of others who've reformed their lives on their own without the benefit of this so-called corrections department. I see we got some other things in the, any other questions? I just want to make sure before we end, we don't leave anybody with an unanswered question, because I know some of you are new to this and are wondering what's going on, and we're trying to give you the unadulterated version so that you can make your decision about joining this fight and helping us to end solitary confinement as it's presently used. Anybody?
Okay, so yeah. I see a question there. Kim Alanio says, talk about how pregnant women are placed in solitary. One thing I can tell you is that when you are pregnant, and I can speak from the places that I did my time at the Broome County of New York, and I also did my time in prison at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. What I can tell you is, regardless of whether or not you are pregnant or not pregnant, if you get into any type of squabble, or, you know, even if you get lippy with an officer, you are still considered, you know, an incarcerated person. So you can still get a ticket. They don't really care that you're pregnant. I assure you that pregnant women are still going to be disciplined the same way. There's no special set of rules if you're pregnant that you're going to be treated a certain way. In fact, from what I saw in my 5 years of being incarcerated, I feel that pregnant women in prison, women there are often mistreated for reasons like jealousy. You know, there's lots of different things that go on, but it's there's no special treatment at all, and there's also this feeling like, you know, you haven't had your baby yet. You must already be a terrible mother because you're pregnant in prison. What kind of mother are you? And very often women who are pregnant in prison, they have other children. So the other women will talk about them. It's a terrible place to be if you are in prison and you're pregnant. But to be in solitary, it happens. If you have a physical altercation with someone, like if someone hits me and I'm pregnant and I get hit, both of us can get in trouble even though I received the hit, okay? So we're both gonna get in trouble. We both, you know, had an altercation. It doesn't really matter who started it in the eyes of Department of Corrections. You both get to say your piece at your hearing, but at the end of the day, often both people are going to be, you know, getting locked. Sometimes that's shoes, sometimes that's solitary, sometimes that's lock. But I can tell you that pregnant women, they get in trouble all the time. Very often, you will at Bedford Hills, which is New York State's only maximum facility for women, pregnant women are locked all the time.
And that is an abomination that you would treat a woman who already hormonally is in a destabilizing position and put her in a worse traumatic situation than that. There's no care for the woman nor the unborn child. And they do it with women who are postpartum, just having a baby and have their hormones not under control. They do it to women. I don't care if they're disabled. I don't care if they have mental health issues. They don't care, man, woman, child. It is about punishment. It is about torture. It is about retribution. And it is usually, you know, I think Sammy was really nice, say that you get into altercation, but you can go for having too many stamps, for not standing up for the count because your legs hurt, for a whole bunch of innocuous reasons that should never lead you to solitary.
So I want to just say something because a woman, Ellen, said that you can go to solitary for all kinds of reasons. Just to tell everybody that's listening, I went to solitary because I tried to donate a book to the children's center, and it was in the school basement, and the officer that was working was like, "Why are you here? 109.10, out of place." And when I was talking to her, she wrote me up for out of place, and she wrote me up that there was no cameras there. She wrote me up that I had threatened her. And so it was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible ticket. And I literally was trying to bring a book to the children's center. I got solitary for that.
Right. Can I say something real quick? I'm sorry to cut you off, but
No, I'm just giving an example. Go ahead.
absolutely. You get a lot of people who are unaware. I'm just gonna say ignorant of prison and the practices in prison, and they are so brutal in their words. And these are a lot of the times these are people who attest to certain faiths, but they are ignorant and they're tough on crime, I guess, and they think that everybody who, first of all, is inside prison committed a crime and they deserve whatever treatment that they went through. But the prison within prison, which is solitary confinement, they always say, well, they must have did something, or well, what do they want, a hotel? And they don't understand that incidences, like, for instance, I was working at the time in a vocational. I was in machine tool technology. I was almost getting my 1,000 hours of that, learning CNC technology, reading blueprints. Like, I was actually working on myself while I was away. And one day it was time for count. Now at count, I was in the dorms at this time. I had finally got out of the Northern, which is the Supermax facility, but I was in a level 3. So it was time to stand up for count. I had to use the bathroom, so I was in the bathroom. I heard them calling for count, and I told the guy, I said, give me 1 second, I'm using the bathroom. It's not like I'm about to, I'm already using the bathroom. He's like, it's count time. So I'm like, give me 1 second. I shake, excuse my language, but I shake and then I go. I don't even wash my hands. I run to the bed, and he's like, yo, you getting a ticket. So I said, I'm getting a ticket. I just told you I was using the tool. Like, what did you want me to you want me to pee on the floor? Like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I ran to the bed. Like, all right, come on. So he's like, he said something, and I called him an asshole. I said, you're an asshole. So he said, all right, I got you. So the next day I went to my class, and they called me. They was like, Mr. Johnson, yo, you gotta go to the lieutenant office. I was like, oh shit, what the? I could go to the lieutenant office. I get a Class A ticket he said that he was, because in retaliation for me calling him an asshole the day before, he went to my bed and he saw that I had my boy that used to go to my bed while I was at school. He would watch my TV with the headphones because he didn't have a TV. So he was listening to my TV with his headphones, and he left his headphones on my bed. So that he gave me some type of property ticket or some shit like that from somebody else for having somebody else's property, and Class A ticket though. And he's in the ticket. He said that I was berating him and some other stuff. And they took me out of the vocational class and sent me to SEG. I was in SEG for days. I almost lost the job, that which would have looked bad when I went to parole and all kinds of stuff. So I didn't commit any violent act or anything in that nature, but people really believe that you can go to SEG, that you go to SEG for only like violent acts or actually doing something. I mean, I guess I was wrong for calling him an asshole, but I don't think it was justification for that.
Well, calling somebody an asshole is not a disruption of the safety and order facility that should devolve into you being placed in solitary confinement. Maybe you lose an amenity or privilege, but not to be that's what I'm saying. If you went to any solitary confinement unit right now, 65% of the men or women or children who are there should not be there because they didn't commit a violation of the facility rules that should demand that they be in solitary confinement. Nobody, let me remind you, nobody is sent to solitary confinement because of the nature of their crime. The judge does not sentence you to solitary confinement. That is an administrative, punitive sanction given by the authorities who run the hearing, do the research, have the evidence, you name it. It is a kangaroo court in the first degree. So to have a ticket to go to the box for that type of issue is an abomination. It is torture on top of torture because you first of all didn't do nothing worthy of it, and now you're being punished thricely for it, and that's a problem. And so we're at 7:58, and I want to be respectful of people's times. I think that I'm hoping we're down to about 71 people still on board, which is really nice from the high of 102 or so. I hope that you were enlightened tonight. I hope you were inspired by the testimonies and stories of my distinguished panel, that you will avail yourself of the opportunity to go on our website, which is in the chat, and Google some of the information that Scott has put up for everybody to get involved with the campaign, to do some tweeting, to do some emails, some calls to the legislators, to push your local legislator, to push for HALT to be passed now. If we don't pass HALT this year, another group of people, men, women, and children, will die and will suffer irreparable damage. I want you to register next on here. We just put up the registration for our next monthly meeting. Please register to be involved. Get involved. The time is now. Everybody and their mother are now fighting for the rights of humanity. You need to be in the fight, and if you haven't picked an issue, this is one that I know you can agree with, that we should end the use of solitary confinement for men, women, and children in this country, and definitely in the state of New York, where we put people away for weeks, months, years, and decades. without helping them, and then send them back to the community and expect them to comport themselves like John Q. citizens. That is such a lie. The system isn't broken, my friends. It is working just how they intended it to work. We have to break it and start. Part of breaking it is passing halt. End their punishment paradigm, end their oppression, end their ability to make people suffer for doing the right thing, like just trying to drop off a book at a nursery or something. Let's stop that. Let's end it. We have the power. We can do it. Please join the campaign. Look to see you sign in. Thank you to my guests, Sammy Jewell, Layton Johnson, Victor Pate, Patrick Gray, Daryl Scott, Jason Whitmer. Victor, I see you got your hand up, which means I want to give you the last word, but I want to thank everybody, all of the 100+ people who tuned in, all of you that are still tuned in right now. We thank you. We appreciate you. We need your help. We need your support. We need to free our people in solitary. The cell is hot today. Let's free them so that they can get out. Yeah, Vic. Vic, you want to take it away? No, you just waving.
That wasn't what I was putting my finger up for. I was just saying that means one people for one cause, for one purpose. Pass the halt bill.
Amen. Amen. Alhamdulillah. Amen. Alhamdulillah. Shalom. Thank you, everybody. Again, my guests, appreciate you. God bless you. Carry that struggle with you to help free somebody else. Scott, thank you for running the boards, keeping us going, for keeping the chats running. Thank you, my brothers and sisters, for your attention. I look forward to seeing you on the battlefield in the fight to end solitary by the passage of the Halt Solitary Confinement Act. Please tune in soon. All our information is in the chat. Thank you. Love you all. Bless you. The fight continues. The battle's not over. We will be victorious. Pass halt now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Pass halt now.
Pass
halt
now.
Pass
halt now. Pass halt now.
God bless. See you all soon. Take care. Peace.
Peace, my G.
I got my picture out of here now. How am I gonna get off here? Okay, I always do this here. How do I leave a meeting? That's like shit. How do I leave a meeting, man? Shit. Ah, boy. Somebody else still in there. I don't know. I'm gonna do this here.